we had an interesting negotiation dynamic with this team over here. They kept offering us pretty bad deals. It was clear that they were trying to scam us, at least at the beginning. Then the deals kept getting slightly better, but like the feeling that like you are being scammed just makes you not want to trade. So the cards that they were offering us had no value to them, and we ultimately realized that we weren't going to have the most number of points out of all the teams here. So we were like, even though we would have ultimately gotten a net point gain out of the trade, we decided not to because we just didn't
like working with them.
We didn't like.
Isn't
exactly.
that very interesting? I know. How many of you have had an experience where working with someone is so miserable that even though it's going to be a net positive, you know, from one perspective, like a financial perspective, you say, I just don't want to do. I don't want to work with these people. How often does that happen? All the time. Really good point, gang. In fact, this happens all the time. You can essentially, you know what, you guys? You can win the battle and lose the war, right? You could have won that battle and really sort of extracted all this money from them, all these chips, but in the end, they're not going to want to work with you. And in fact, they didn't even do the deal. They were willing to sacrifice their own, you know, progress because they didn't want to work with you. Yeah.
I was just going to, because we didn't get to a point where there was one team that was like bartering, it kind of was like, they didn't want us to get all the cards. So that's kind of what was underlying his negotiation.
I see. Yep.
Are the,
1, 2, 3.
just to point out the important converse of that you will sort of take more sales from people you like also.
Yeah. Right, and then exactly. So if it was someone you liked, you were willing to take less. Great.
I think it would be interesting if you had this activity run like, you know, for a week, for example, and then in class you have a trading session. I bet like it would be very
Well, let me tell you the history of this project. I have a colleague named Carlos, who's from Chile, and he told me he was visiting. This was many years ago, and he told me about a project he does with his students that's essentially like a week-long. Maybe it's not a week. Maybe it's like 4 days long, but it's like 24 hours a day game that has to do with jigsaw puzzles. And all the teams, and you throw all the pieces together, and they all get then distributed. Everyone has to build a puzzle. And I said, oh my gosh, I want to do something like that, but I have to do it in 2 hours. So I designed a version of this game. In fact, in a minute, I'm going to show you a video of this being done. 5-minute video of a 2-hour class with this project. But initially, it was done with puzzles. And it worked so well. I mean, I basically completely changed what he was doing, but I love that idea of having to build a puzzle by putting all the pieces together. Decided to change it from building a puzzle to building a house of cards. And why was that? Why did I move from building puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, to house of cards? Yeah.
There's really only one way to put the puzzle together.
Puzzle is one right answer, but a house of cards is infinite. So it adds this level of creativity that you don't have in a puzzle. But it still works with puzzles. So I want to look then at the idea of creativity. Look at all the creative solutions. How did the creative process work in your team in coming up with these really innovative approaches to the problem? Any insights on that?